Did you know there's a formula for crafting a good God of War game? And it seems like our boy has done a lot in the Norse realm, fighting Thor, raising a son, and a whole lot of violence. Even with dozens of mythologies, leaks, and speculations going around, I realized that the God of War formula can only support certain mythologies. Now my comments are already convinced, even though nothing was officially said. But the more I looked into Egyptian mythology, the more it all made sense, especially with the moment in Ragnarok that I'll explain soon. No, it's not the mural scene. Today we define the God of War formula, test it against Egyptian mythology, look into bizarre storylines, incredible monsters, weapons, and even potential gameplay mechanics. Does the next God of War game have what it takes to win another Game of the Year? Let's find out.
We have a long journey ahead.
So even with dozens of mythologies out there, only some fit the elements of the God of War formula. The first set of titles were all set within Greek mythology, where the formula was being fine-tuned with every release. The last Greek one being God of War Ascension in 2013. Now rebooting the franchise within Greek mythology would honestly have been repetitive. So Santa Monica Studios took a risk and threw Kratos into Norse mythology with the 2018 release. He's able to hop through mythologies because his world is grid-like and you can simply walk to another mythology, which is what majority of the community believe. They continued the Norse theme with Ragnarok, and the next installment will most likely not be Norse. Instead, they'll have to choose from dozens of mythologies. So this got me thinking about the God of War formula. What actually makes a good God of War game both for story and gameplay? Well, it starts with myth. Is the actual world rooted within structured mythology? Now what I mean by that is, are there gods, realms, ancient laws, a spiritual system? With the Greek, the gods were selfish tyrants. In Norse, gods are bound by fate and prophecy. We see that through all the shrines that have the future already written. They visit the Norns, which are literal manifestations of fate. And we even see the manipulation of fate with Odin's disguise as Tyr. The next is emotion. Can this world reflect his internal war and carry a deep story? In 2018, it was about letting go of his wife and raising a son. In Ragnarok, it was about stopping a cycle he was trapped in, directly going against all the fate and prophecy within Norse mythology. Now Kratos' internal war is going to play a huge role in the next game because of something I felt at the end of Ragnarok, which we'll get into soon. The next stop is mechanics. Does the world allow for new gameplay loops, weapons, puzzles, and monsters? For example, for a lot of us, the first few God of War games was our introduction to Greek gods. And while I knew about Thor, I didn't really understand Norse mythology until I played the two new games. Each mythology had different aesthetics, monsters, and puzzles that could easily be traced to a cool story. Like the Hafuga in Ragnarok was actually a creative interpretation of a sea monster that lived in the depths of the ocean with a more dark vibe instead of the hopeful and peaceful version in the game. The last, and most important for maximum fun, is monsters.
Father, what's the biggest thing you've ever fought?
I do not know. There's the God of War.
I don't think God of War is God of War without the scale of battle and these seemingly impossible fights. I had to fight a big-ass wolf, a dragon, and then of course beat up an old man. Even the henchman-type enemies are creative, have distinct abilities, and just so satisfying to obliterate. In Greece, you fight Zeus and a ton of monsters, then with the new games, you fight Odin, start Ragnarok, and so much more. So the mythology we're using just needs to have a heap of lore we can pull from to ramp up the action within the game. Now before we apply our God of War formula to Egyptian mythology, I just have to say after diving into it, they might have some of the craziest family drama I've ever seen. You thought the whole Odin killing Thor was bad? What if your brother cut you up into 42 pieces and fed you to crocodiles? Yeah, more on that later. But first, let's see how deep this mythology is. Now the Norse games were based on fate and prophecy, and after digging into Egyptian history, it seems one of the biggest aspects is pretty clear. One of the most telling visuals is Mot's scale. When a person dies, their heart is placed on one side, the other, the feather of Mot, which is the symbol of purity and truth. In terms of gods, they govern the cosmic order, life, death, chaos, and law, with Ra, Osiris, and Horus at the top, and a plethora of others that can be used to pull a story forward. Horus's wife cheating on him with Osiris, Anubis was born out of that, fighting for the throne by turning into hippos. There's so many stories. You see, Egyptian mythology is all about judgment. Their spiritual law is based on moral balance. Imagine Kratos' judgment day, all the things he's done through all the mythologies, both good and bad. Now let me describe the moment at the end of Ragnarok that pulls me further into believing Egyptian mythology sets a great foundation for Kratos' internal war. The war was over. You walk looking for your son. A ridiculous journey you've been on together, all leading to him leaving. In that moment, I truly felt alone. Wife gone, son gone, every moment of the journey flashing before me, and this battle between happiness and sadness was getting stronger, eventually leading to coming to terms with this chapter ending. While that means Kratos' chapter ending, for me it meant the game was ending. The physical embodiment of that feeling is portrayed so well with a barren desert. Nobody by your side but the wind. Nothing for miles. With Kratos mentioning that there's lots to rebuild, and how and I'm sure most of you felt at the end of Ragnarok, you're sensing a massive struggle coming. And Kratos is going to have to deal with it himself. Complete solitude for self-reflection. With a new fate that seemed impossible, how do you rebuild that image? How do you change your judgment? How does Kratos grow? Egyptian mythology lays the bed for Kratos' internal war perfectly. But you're not going to believe how well the aspects of Egyptian mythology transform into gameplay mechanics. The in-game mechanics Egyptian mythology can provide is actually pretty cool, and I discovered 2 realistic additions. As a bonus, we'll go over a must-have Egyptian weapon, like when Kratos crafted the Draupnir spear from Norse myths. The first and most obvious element is to utilize the sand. Now, Kratos can't magically become the sandbender. He'll have to find the tool that the god of wisdom uses. Kratos will be able to use it for puzzles, clearing paths, and maybe even control sand in combat, with the tool being the Staff of Thoth, which was used to focus magic abilities. The next mechanic was staring right at me, and we can take it from another PlayStation banger.
Inside me, something was beginning. Scary as hell at first. You gotta understand, there was no one to talk to, no experts to consult. But with time, I'm learning to control it, master it.
You see, Cole from Infamous had a system where the deeds you did determine the path you take. A classic hero versus villain choice, a different set of skills and powers for each path. And Egyptian mythology is all about the judgment system and the heart scale. What if Kratos is given this freedom, and player decisions will dictate which side he's on? So the player is actually guiding Kratos' moral journey. Now obviously this mechanic has to play into the grand story, but it's something they can look into. They can also look into adding Egypt's most popular weapon. Now Kratos doesn't have hammer space for weapons like GTA, so we have to be selective. The blades were given to him by the gods. The dwarves built his axe initially for Faye. And every weapon has a story, and the Egyptian Khopesh is no different. The most notable would be Tutankhamun's Khopesh. I really hope I said that right. And it was built from meteoric iron. Maybe there's a way Kratos finds a similar weapon crafted in the stars. A tough choice between dropping the axe or the blades. Let me know which one you'd pick. Now, of course, what about the monsters? As I was playing through AC Origins, I learned animals are a big part of Egyptian mythology, and God of War has the ability to amplify that to the extremes with a focus on 3 key villains, each with a different threat level, so we'll start with level 1, a Hippo-Croc-Lion hybrid. This is Amit, the end of the road if you fail your judgment with Mot's scale, eaten and sent to oblivion. Now Kratos has taken on more, so we'll need something more challenging. For level 2, how about the Egyptian god of war, Set? Killed his own brother for the throne, His domain is the desert, and he's always enraged. In the Gods of Egypt film, while not accurate to the myths, he kills all the gods and steals their powers to become superset, basically Thanos and the Infinity Stones. Now for level 3, it has to be World Destroyer level. Marvel has Galactus, Transformers has Unicron, and Egyptian mythology has a snake. Apopus is the Chaos Serpent. In Gods of Egypt, he was this dune-looking worm. In AC Origins, he was an actual snake. And if this is going to be the great monster in the next God of War, Santa Monica Studios can really scale it up to be this cataclysmic event. Now, the most recent rumors suggest a remaster of all the Greek titles and or some sort of prequel before diving into the next full-fledged God of War game, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. All in all, Egyptian mythology hits all the beats for myths, emotion, mechanics, and monsters, and sets the scene pretty well for Kratos' next chapter, especially with the end of Ragnarok and the prophecy of Kratos being worshipped.